You can remove yourself from a toxic situation or a toxic person while still acknowledging that they just don't get it and that they don't know better yet, and try to stay in a place of compassion or loving detachment from. Hi, I'm Veronica and welcome to the Wholeness Shift. If this is your first time here, welcome. I teach about easy, practical spirituality, and I help you navigate your spiritual awakening. We talk about everything on this channel, every topic, nothing's off limits. So if this sounds like something that interests you, please hit the subscribe button. I wouldn't want you to miss out on anything good. Today we're talking about the curse of knowledge. Stick around and let's get into it. In 1990, a Stanford University student named Elizabeth Newton conducted a study. She assigned one person as the tapper and one person as the listener, and the listener would have to try to guess what song the tapper was tapping out on the table. It had to be something simple that everybody should know, like Happy Birthday. They expected about 50% of the people would actually get the tune, but it turns out that only 2.5% did. 1 in 40. Wasn't very much. So why did this happen? Well, when the tapper is tapping, they're able to hear the melody of the song playing in their head, but all the listener is hearing is some thumping on the table, like Morse code or an SOS signal. It's really hard to get what the tune is if you're not hearing the melody in your head. And the study also showed that the tappers would get very frustrated with the listener because they were working so hard to get them to figure out what this song was, and they just could not believe that this person could not know what the song was. How could you possibly not know this? So the results of this study were named the curse of knowledge. And that's because the study showed that once we know something, we lose our memory of not knowing it. And we look at people who don't know it and wonder how they could possibly not know it. It's a cognitive bias that causes us to lose our empathy and compassion for the people who don't know what we know. And of course, how this applies to spirituality and or making the world a better place is that once you begin to awaken and you're getting all of this knowledge and these skills and these gifts are coming online and your consciousness is expanding, it's really easy to shift into a place of judgment towards someone who has not yet begun to awaken. It creates a division or a barrier that prevents your heart from being fully open towards people who don't yet know what you know. And it can also cause you to be in a space of judgment towards yourself, your current self, and especially your past self. It makes it really easy to look back on your life and judge or shame yourself and think, how could I not have known better? I should have known better. How in the world did I do that? See what I mean? Years ago, when I was in therapy for my CPTSD, my therapist, Nancy, God love her, she changed my life. I just love her so much. Nancy, if you ever see this, I love you. Anyways, I was really good at doing this to myself. I felt so much shame about the things that had happened to me in my life, the decisions I had made, the relationships I ended up in. And I was like, how did I not see? How did I make that decision? How could I have done that? I should have known better. How did I not know better? And she always used to say something to the effect of, you cannot judge your 12-year-old self or your 15-year-old self or your 21-year-old self or your 27-year-old self with the same knowledge and wisdom that your 35 or your 40-year-old self has. They're apples and oranges. They don't compare. She wasn't equipped with those skills yet. She didn't know better. Have compassion for her. Little did I know that this thing she was teaching me had an actual name called the curse of knowledge. I did not know that at that time. So if you're being honest, do you do this to yourself too? Are you guilty of this? whether judging yourself or judging other people or looking down on them like, they just don't know what I know, or they just don't, how could they not know that? How do they not know that behaving like that is horrible? How do they not know that behaving like that is just making the world a worse place? I'm guilty of it. I'm for sure guilty of it. I try to do better. I try to be aware of it. I try to stop it and shift it when I recognize it, but I'm guilty of that. I think we all are, probably. And the only way that we're going to continue to grow and to change the world and to do better is to recognize it and stop doing it when we do recognize it. And when you do recognize it and stop it, try to tap into the energy in that heart space. Try to shift into a place of love and compassion. That doesn't mean that you have to tolerate willful ignorance, and it doesn't mean that you have to tolerate bad or toxic behavior. You can remove yourself from a toxic situation or a toxic person while still acknowledging that they just don't get it and that they don't know better yet, and try to stay in a place of compassion or loving detachment from them, instead of being in a space of judgment and anger or hate or resentment towards them. You don't have to sit there in their ignorance with them. You keep growing. You keep blossoming. You keep your heart open. You keep your side of the street clean. You be approachable and open-hearted to anybody who truly is beginning to awaken or is curious and has questions for you. Try to remember what that was like and how scary and lonely it felt. You felt like you're the only person in the world who's ever gone through this, and you don't have anyone to talk to about it. So just try to stay in a loving, compassionate place towards them. We've got this. Go team. Until next time.